Hello, welcome back to episode 5 in our microphone review guide. Today's microphone is the Neumann U87, the AI version, so it's a very new one as opposed to one of the classic vintage ones, but it retains quite a lot of the traditional features and just been brought up to date a little way. As usual, we're starting off with the comparison microphone, the Shure SM7B, and we're going to switch to the Neumann now. So we're now on the Neumann, and what do you need to know? Well, being very honest, they're a lot of money. The most money I've ever spent on a microphone, and quite frankly, I'm a little unimpressed. It's a lovely microphone. I've got very used to the sound of the AKG 414. It's my go-to condenser. I can happily put it on almost anything and it works fine. I sort of expected the same thing would happen on the 87 when I bought one, and it hasn't happened. The 87 seems to be 50% success, 50% fail. And what I mean by that is that the characteristic sound that these microphones have flatters some sound sources and gets in the way of others. I'm not as successful. What I've discovered is I have to make an educated guess on whether the 87 is going to be a good microphone for the things I want to use it on. So I'm discovering that it's a very expensive microphone and it seems to like quite expensive musical instruments, and it seems to like very, very good voices. If someone has an average voice, use me as an example, I don't think I sound the best on it. I know that sounds ridiculous, and it's the sort of microphone that you would expect to sound good on every source, but quite frankly, it doesn't. The 57 dynamic, the 414 condenser that I use, will do a damn good job on almost anything I throw at them. I've got 3 saxophones, an alto, a soprano and a tenor. And the 87 sounds lovely on the tenor. I really like it and I'll probably use it every time I record that instrument. But it doesn't do so well on the soprano. It seems to emphasise the key clacks that I get. I mean, perhaps it could be argued that maybe I ought to spend a bit of money and get the saxophone set up and have a bit of a refurb on it. But the action clicks a bit, and when some of the pads go down, they make a distinct popping sound. And the 87 seems to emphasise those, and I get a very mechanical type of sound from the soprano. When I use the 414, it's less. It records the soprano fine, and I don't have to do very much with it. With a bit of work, I can use EQ and I can sort of suck out some of the clacks and clinks and do things like that. And I'm finding that I have to do the same thing with EQ on voice. Now, for this recording, I'm not using EQ. We don't use processing of any kind. We just plug it in, record what the microphone puts out. But I sort of thought that I wouldn't have to do that when I bought one. And as a result, I'm just finding it sits in its case. Case-wise, don't forget, they come in a nice wooden polished box. I think it's mahogany. It's rather pleasant, but essentially it's a wooden box. And it tends to sit in that box quite a lot, I've noticed. I'm also quite clumsy, and I have to try very hard not to be clumsy around a microphone that costs what this one did. So maybe that colours my judgment a bit as well. I've got a little ding on one of the 414s and it doesn't bother me too much. It's a little mark on the grill. I can live with that. I just don't want to do it to this microphone. So maybe it's just because I'm a bit overprotective, but you're listening to my voice. You've heard my voice in the other videos probably. And I don't know what you think. I mean, does this one make my voice nicer to listen to or less nice? It does seem a bit subjective. Anyway, let's just talk about some of the features of the 87 that it's got. It's a 3 polar pattern microphone. It's not switchable between the mid stages like the 414 is. So you've got an omnidirectional, you've got a cardioid, and you've got a figure of 8. You've also got on the rear of the microphone some switches, again like the 414, that will let you put a pad in and let you put a bass roll-off in. That's a useful thing to have. On the front of the microphone we've got the switch that selects between Omni, Figure of 8 and Cardioid, and on the rear of the microphone are two slide switches that will let you put in a bass roll-off, or you can have a minus 10 dB pad. The switches that operate these functions on the 87 are recessed partly into the body, so it's quite difficult to accidentally knock them. On the AKG 414 that I use, the switches are easily proddable, and if you hold one in your hand, press the one on the front, you can accidentally press the one on the back too and not notice. You can't do that on the U87. That's one good part of the design. The design, of course, which goes back years and years. Variations of these microphone bodies have been on the market for a long time now, with very few changes. So what do I think of the U87? Well, it's a capable microphone. It's really nice to have one. Hand on heart, I'm not sure that I would want to spend the money and get another one so I can have a pair of them. Most of my microphones I buy in twos. It's very handy for stereo, so I can have stereo pairs of virtually all the different microphones that I've got in my collection. I could afford just one of these. I think that's going to limit what I do with it quite a bit. And it's not worth me thinking of buying another one. I just don't think I'm going to get the use out of it that I thought. It's too precious, it's too expensive. And even me, who's a big clumsy geek, I'm just a little bit paranoid at breaking the thing. I don't want to drop it, I don't want to scratch it, I don't want to get grubby fingerprints all over it. With my other microphones, I don't bother. They're tools and I just use them like that. And if someone scuffs one or someone sort of bumps into one, or even if I get a few dents in it, I don't really mind that much. I would be quite upset if this microphone got damaged. I think that's the problem. It's too expensive to be good. They're capable microphones and they solidly deserve their reputation. The quality of build is great. Everything about them is lovely. But it's just a little bit like an expensive motor car. It doesn't really get you to the shops any better. And the fact that I'm a little bit scared of damaging it to protect my investment means it's never going to get the sort of use that it deserves. Perhaps I'm being a bit unfair on it, but realistically, the sound of some of the other mics I've got in my collection, I like better. People are going to think that a very strange thing to say about a U87, and I'm very pleased I bought it, but it just isn't really going to earn its keep, I don't think. Anyway, that's the U87ai version, and have a listen and see what you think of it on the acoustic guitar. See you again soon with the next episode. Don't forget, do the subscribe thing, it really helps, and I'll get some more microphone reviews up as soon as I can possibly do it. See you later, bye.